tonight, Amazon is shutting down warehouses across Quebec and laying off nearly 2,000 workers.
Some of them are crying. What we gonna do now?
The retail giant suddenly pulling out of the province. Why some say the timing and location is no coincidence.
This is a very powerful message, and it will send a chill.
The Premier's plan to confront a trade war with the U.S.
We need to match those tariffs dollar for dollar.
And two prominent Canadians tapped for their expertise tell us what you can do. Plus, Canadian pet owners feeling sticker shock at the vet.
I was like, wow, I can't pay for that right now.
Marketplace investigates what is really driving up costs. An insider speaks out.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. Shock and uncertainty tonight for nearly 2,000 Amazon workers across Quebec. They are reeling at the sudden news they're losing their jobs. Amazon says it will close all 7 of its facilities in the province. More than 1,700 permanent positions and 250 temporary ones are being cut. This includes the location in Laval, where 240 staff unionized last year and were trying to land a first contract. Now, they'll be sending out job applications. Vanessa Lee shows us workers thrown by a life-changing surprise and the message some say Amazon is sending across Canada.
Amazon employees arrived at work only to learn their work is disappearing. Within 2 months, the retail giant is shutting down all 7 of its facilities across Quebec.
Some of them are crying, actually. Some of them are crying. What we gonna do now?
Nadim Sabahublu says he worked hard to climb the ranks to supervisor over the past 4 years.
It's hard to find one stable job. And yeah, we have to just start over. Like, we have to start at the beginning.
Nobody saw this coming.
In a statement, Amazon says, following a recent review of our Quebec operations, we've seen that returning to a third-party delivery model supported by local small businesses will allow us to provide the same great service and even more savings to our customers over the long run. Adding, this decision wasn't made lightly. Quebec is home to Amazon's only unionized workforce in Canada.
We did unionize one facility, and we were working very hard to form unions in other facilities, and Amazon is really anti-union.
Workers at this delivery station in Laval successfully joined a union last May, dissatisfied with what they described as low wages and inadequate health and safety measures. The company challenged the certification process, but Quebec's Labor Tribunal dismissed the case. For months, the union has been trying to negotiate a collective agreement.
It's pretty clear they're shutting down their facilities in Quebec to provide an example and to set precedent and to send a signal across North America to all unions who are attempting to organize in the sector. And this is a very powerful message, and it will send a chill across those drives.
Quebec's labor minister says the affected workers are top of mind, and he will ensure the company respects labor laws. As for whether he believes Amazon's explanation,
we will receive the notice of collective dismissal. We will analyze the situation.
All of this throws more attention on an Amazon warehouse in Delta, BC, where a union is accusing the company of beefing up its workforce to fend off a union drive, Adrienne.
And Vanessa, to what degree will the changes in Quebec affect how customers get their orders?
Well, Adrienne, it will no longer be Amazon drivers showing up at the door, but rather local third-party delivery companies. When the company expanded 4 years ago in Quebec, it touted greater demand as well as the need for faster deliveries. Well, soon the closest fulfillment center will be in Ottawa. In fact, there will be none east of Ontario, Adrienne.
All right, Vanessa Lee in Laval tonight. Thanks, Vanessa. That blow comes as calls to buy Canadian are ramping up, with Donald Trump threatening to hit Canadian goods with a 25% tariff as early as next week. As Kate McKenna explains, after much talk about retaliation, premiers are now focused on how to strengthen Canada's economy.
Canada's first ministers are meeting with a frequency not seen since COVID.
We had a really productive meeting with all the premiers and the prime minister.
They're strategizing about what happens if Donald Trump follows through on his tariff threat.
We've been given a reprieve, whether that's a week or 6 weeks. So there is a time for cooler heads to prevail.
Premiers disagree on the size and scope of potential retaliation.
Saskatchewan has always been supportive of the tariffs, the targeted tariffs.
We need to match those tariffs dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff, and make sure that it hurts the Americans as much as it hurts Canadians.
But they've found some common ground, a goal to open up internal trade.
It's a no-brainer that we need to get rid of these trade barriers.
Regulations and red tape can make it easier to trade with the U.S. than between provinces.
It's estimated that removing these internal trade barriers could lower prices by up to 15%, boost productivity by up to 7%, and add up to $200 billion to the domestic economy.
I don't think most Canadians are aware of how many barriers there are.
One famous example hasn't aged well.
The most egregious example that I can think of is, of course, the prohibition on trans-border shipment of wine between one province and another.
There's also a renewed push to buy local.
I think it will be an additional argument to buy products made in Quebec.
Alberta's Danielle Smith split from the premiers last week over fears Ottawa would use oil as a bargaining chip in a trade war. She now says the group is closer to consensus, and all premiers agree the best case scenario would be dissuading Donald Trump from imposing tariffs at all. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister has also set up a council on Canada-U.S. relations made up of business and policy leaders. And that includes these two, Arlene Dickinson and Jean Charest. I'll speak with them a little later. Well, CBC News has confirmed that if she becomes the next Liberal leader, Chrystia Freeland says she will scrap changes to the capital gains tax that she introduced and defended as finance minister. Last year, the Liberals proposed to raise the taxable amount on the sale of capital gains, like on a stock or a piece of property. While it never actually got through Parliament, the Canada Revenue Agency has already begun collecting capital gains taxes at the new and higher rate. According to a source, Freeland's reversal is due to concerns Donald Trump could make changes to the U.S. capital gains tax. Trump is already making good on a big promise of his. All federal employees working in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are about to lose their jobs. As Paul Hunter tells us, Trump intends to scrap the programs altogether.
The day before he was sworn back in as U.S. President, Donald Trump made his promise once again.
We're going to stop the destructive and divisive diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And sure enough, first night back in the Oval Office,
our country is going to be based on merit again.
Promise kept, ordering a dismantling of federal DEI practices that aimed at fair treatment for all in the workplace and to root out discrimination. All federal workers who oversee DEI practices are now on administrative leave. Civil rights activists call it reprehensible.
What this is about is saying we're no longer going to have protections in the government against discriminatory practices. That's what this is all about. It returns us to a 1950s American.
We seek not just freedom, but opportunity.
It was President Lyndon Johnson who kick-started federal affirmative action practices, pushing federal agencies to hire more women and minorities. Trump is now ending that, arguing merit should be the determining factor. At rallies, his supporters back him on that, dismissing DEI as so-called woke culture, and say it wrongly puts white people at a hiring disadvantage. Corporate America has heard them too, with a number of major players in the U.S. lately also backing away from formal DEI practices. On Capitol Hill, Republican lawmakers are on side as well.
I think the American people have spoken very clearly.
All of it underlining in no small way this is Donald Trump's country now. He's shaping it the way he told voters he would if they elected him. And they did. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Trump is giving his first Oval Office interview since returning to the White House, in part reflecting on that return after being away for 4 years.
I think it's bigger. It's bigger than if it were more traditional.
He sat down with Fox News host Sean Hannity for the pre-recorded chat. Katie Simpson is watching this for us in Washington. So, Katie, what more can you tell us about this interview?
Nothing about tariffs for our Canadian audience. That's what everyone is watching for. But one of the headlines coming out of this has to do with what Donald Trump says about pardons and investigations. He was asked about former President Joe Biden's decision to grant preemptive pardons to members of his family, some lawmakers, and public figures who Trump has attacked in the past.
This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know,
You ordered the DOJ.
I've always been, look, he didn't give himself a pardon. And he didn't give some other people a pardon that needed it.
So the conversation came back to pardons again and again, whether Trump wants to see Biden and others investigated either by Congress or the Attorney General, and he mused about revenge.
I went through 4 years of hell. I spent millions of dollars in legal fees, and I won. But I did it the hard way. It's really hard to say that they shouldn't have to go through it also. It is very hard to say that.
The president also defended pardoning violent January 6 rioters, saying they suffered enough in jail. He stands by trying to stop the TikTok ban, downplaying any spying concerns, saying the app helped him with young voters. And he again promised to release classified documents about the assassination of JFK.
All right, Katie Simpson in Washington tonight. Well, Donald Trump is turning the tariff threats to Russia now, pressuring Vladimir Putin to end his war on Ukraine. Trump started his online post by saying, "I'm not looking to hurt Russia," but went on to say, "Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. If we don't make a deal and soon, I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States." Well, Russia's response? We'll have to see what he means by deal. Its deputy UN ambassador saying it's not just a question of ending the war, but addressing the root causes of the crisis. Next month will mark 3 years since Russia's invasion. CBC News is inside Ukraine tonight, speaking with soldiers there who say they are exhausted and want this war to end.
All we're saying is, like Western countries, just step in. Let's just stop this thing now. Let's just freeze it.
Do you think that's a popular opinion among soldiers?
I think so. All of us think, let's freeze it a bit. But I can also tell you in the same breath that if they want to keep on fighting, we say no problem.
What and who those soldiers say they're facing now on the front lines, coming up on The Breakdown. In much of central Canada tonight, there is relief from the frigid Arctic air that put a big chill on millions of people. That is not the case on the Gulf Coast of the U.S., where extreme cold warnings are in place again tonight for portions of South Alabama, Florida, and Southwest Georgia, parts that haven't been this frosty in more than a century. That Arctic cold was felt over 2/3 of the country. Jamie Strachan shows us how the South is bearing the bitter brunt.
In Canada, this is a familiar sound. In Atlanta, not so much. It's one of many surreal scenes across the southern U.S. Beaches coated with ice, palm trees drooping, weighed down with snow. From the Carolinas to Florida to Texas, a once-in-a-lifetime winter storm has caused havoc at airports, snarled traffic, and caused 10 deaths, mostly on icy roads.
We're seeing numerous collisions. I mean, hundreds of single-car crashes where vehicles run off the road.
The snowfall in many cities historic, shattering century-old records. In New Orleans, parts of the famous French Quarter turned into a hockey rink.
We've been doing everything that we can to let people know that they should stay at home.
The city not equipped for winter weather, relying on outside help for equipment to move the snow.
So those who don't recognize that type vehicle, it is a snowplow. We have 14 of them right now going throughout the city of New Orleans.
Experts say it's another example of weather that's increasingly unstable and unpredictable.
With global warming, it isn't just heat. It's extremes. So extreme cold, extreme heat, droughts, flooding, snowstorms.
That snow a novelty for millions of Americans. In Houston, a snowball fight. Snowboarding in Greenville, North Carolina.
I've been up all night for this. I've been excited for Greenville to finally have snow. I'm out here snowboarding on a skateboard deck with no wheels.
For thousands of Canadian snowbirds who flock south to escape winter, not so funny.
We come down here to get rid of the damn snow, and here we have snow. Everything is still closed down here because, you know, they have no snow plows or anything.
That snowbird says the sun is breaking through where he is, though much of the Gulf Coast is still in the grips of a record cold snap, with little relief expected before the weekend. Jimmy Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
North of Los Angeles, a new fast-moving wildfire has prompted evacuations. More than 30,000 people are under orders to get out. Strong winds fueled the flames, causing the fire to explode in just a few hours. It is not far from those deadly fires still burning closer to the city of Los Angeles. Back in this country, a highly contagious, hard-to-treat stomach bug is spreading through homeless communities. And as Jennifer Yoon shows us, there's concern the infection is becoming more resistant to antibiotics.
Night after night, Nurse Karen El-Lemire is confronted with suspected cases of a highly contagious illness known as Shigella.
We've been seeing a lot of people coming in complaining of diarrhea, severe fatigue, belly pain. People are embarrassed. They don't necessarily want to talk about it.
There's an outbreak in Toronto. At least 11 confirmed cases among people experiencing homelessness. But the city's public health officer thinks the number is much higher.
Most people will resolve the infection on their own. So we're really only capturing those who are seeking medical attention, going to the hospital to get tested, for instance.
The best prevention for the bacterial infection is through hygiene measures. But for those without a home, access to public toilets is an ongoing challenge. In Edmonton, sanitation measures have helped control cases. Since 2022, over 300 people have been hospitalized there with severe Shigella infections. Public health authorities were helping people find a place to take a shower, use the washroom, and get a change of clothes. But still, there's been an outbreak on and off for years.
As soon as you would get somebody to the right place, 3 more would pop up.
Antibiotics can help and were part of Edmonton's solution, supplied to people living in tents. But in other cities, the stomach bug is getting more resistant to pills.
And if they require antibiotics, they have to either go to the emergency department or go to the hospital to be able to receive IV antibiotics.
And even then, IVs don't work in all cases. Extensively, drug-resistant Shigella has been reported in Europe, Australia, and the U.S.
There's been cases of it in Seattle, and we occasionally see cases in Vancouver, but luckily it's not that well established.
The best way to prepare against Shigella goes back to prevention. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Some pet owners are getting hit with big vet bills.
I was like, wow, I can't pay for that right now.
Marketplace investigates the corporations taking over your pet's care. Prince Harry gets a rare apology and a big payout.
News UK is finally held to account.
The tabloid case that has dragged on for years. And we hear from the man who laced up in the most unlikely place.
That was one of the cooler hockey experiences I've had in my life.
We're back in 2. Netflix is raising its prices. Depending on the plan, Canadian subscribers will now pay between $2 to $3 a month more, effective immediately. Netflix says the hike is due to programming investments. It comes after the streaming giant reported a record 19 million new subscribers in the last quarter of 2024. Well, a new Marketplace investigation is taking a closer look tonight at the rising cost of caring for a pet in this country. The cost of going to the vet just keeps rising. Chelsea Agro spoke to vet insiders who say it may be about who's really behind that care.
Doesn't that one have catnip in it?
When Guppy the cat stopped eating, Maya Terzic rushed him to the vet. After agreeing to a few $100s worth of blood work, she was shocked when she got a bill for $1,100.
I was like, wow, I can't pay for that right now.
She had no idea the clinic she'd just taken her cat to was owned by a corporation.
I was panicked. I was like, this is the only vet that I know.
Before 2010, almost all vet clinics in Canada were owned by the vet you visited. International conglomerates are now behind more than half of emergency and specialty hospitals and 20% of all vet clinics in Canada. Of the three biggest players in Canada, only VCA brands its clinics. Vet Strategy and NVA do not. So just like Maya, consumers may not know who's really behind their pet's care.
I think they're hiding it.
Insider Rima, whose name we've changed to protect her identity, spent 5 years working at a Vet Strategy clinic. She says the priority at those clinics was clear: increase profits.
At my hospital, we had 5 service fee increases within 1 year.
She's got a torn ACL.
Pricing strategies St. John-based vet Dr. Ivan Zach says are driving up the cost of care across the country.
The danger there is that everybody starts comparing to the clinic that is owned by a corporation that says, okay, well, we can go that high.
VCA says they offer a range of pet health care services in an effort to keep veterinary care accessible. NVA says they don't change the name of a clinic after they buy it to respect the legacy built by the veterinarian. Vet Strategy tells us that, like all industries, its operating costs have risen rapidly in recent years. They also say that they are committed to transparency, and information about its practices can be found on its website.
I think it's only fair to be honest with your customers and your clients, and then they can make an informed choice of where they want to go.
Guppy has made a full recovery, but if he does get sick again, Terzic says she won't be taking him back to a corporate clinic. Charles Ciagro, CBC News, Toronto.
You can watch the entire Marketplace investigation Friday when the team goes undercover with hidden cameras inside vet offices. All of this is part of a joint investigative project. Marketplace, the Fifth Estate, and Radio-Canada are all digging into the changing pet health industry in Canada. Well, soldiers fighting for Ukraine say they're exhausted and they fear they can't keep going much longer.
We're all tired. We want peace.
CBC News is near the front lines of the war. And Canada's strategy to take on Trump's tariff threat.
This is the latest piece of our Team Canada approach.
I'll speak with two people you may know well helping with Canada's response. The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Prince Harry has settled a lawsuit against a UK tabloid publisher, winning damages in a rare public apology. The publisher used illegal tactics to gather information on the royal for years. Thomas Daigle takes us through the legal saga.
For years, the target of illegal phone hacking and dirty tabloid tricks, Prince Harry has now received a rare apology in court and a settlement worth millions.
News UK is finally held to account for its illegal actions and its blatant disregard for the law.
For the first time, the company behind The Sun admits its private investigators broke the law to dig up dirt, producing salacious headlines about Harry's younger days that left him fuming. News Group newspaper says, "We acknowledge and apologize for the distress caused to the Duke and the damage inflicted on relationships, friendships, and family."
We're looking to the government and we're also looking to the police and say, are you going to investigate what went on here? Unlawful behaviour that's been admitted.
The company even apologizing for snooping into the private life of Harry's late mother, Diana. All of it part of a last-minute deal said to be worth $20 million or more. Until now, Harry insisted he wouldn't settle.
One of the main reasons for seeing this through is accountability, because I'm the last person that can actually achieve that.
Over the years, the publisher paid settlements to actor Hugh Grant and 1,300 other claimants. For the billionaire Murdoch family, their British newspapers again avoid a trial and all the scrutiny that would come with it. Harry's lawyer calling it a criminal enterprise that deleted 30 million emails to cover its tracks.
News Group will be very pleased that this isn't going ahead and that all of those allegations will be
den open call.
Harry has said his father, King Charles, didn't approve of his legal battle against the tabloids, but it's not over yet, with the fifth in line to the throne targeting the Daily Mail, in another case set to go to trial next year. Thomas Dagle, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world. Consumed by a nearly 3-year conflict, soldiers fighting for Ukraine are fearful and demoralized.
I honestly don't think we're going to be able to hold it for much longer. Morale's down, the boys are tired.
A view of the front line in Ukraine through the eyes of exhausted soldiers preparing to return. But first,
This is the latest piece of our Team Canada approach to make sure we have all hands on deck.
faced with Trump's tariff threat, the Prime Minister's Council of Business and Policy Leaders grapples with an aggressive and unpredictable U.S. administration. And that challenge grows by the day. We caught up with 2 members of that council earlier this evening. Arlene Dickinson is an entrepreneur and venture capitalist, and Jean Charest is a former Quebec Premier and Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you both for making time for us. If I could start with you first. This council was formed, as I understand it, to help the government sort of in its negotiations. So what does this end up looking like for you on a daily basis? Who are you talking to?
Well, we have an open line to the government, including the Prime Minister. He's been very clear that he's making himself available to all of us so that we can give him feedback on what we're hearing on the ground, any advice that we wish to share. And the same thing for public servants, ministers of the government. The idea is for them, I guess, to create antennas out there of individuals who are in the business community, have some experience, and are able to give them some feedback on what's happening. And they also can talk to us so that we can share with the people we work with some of the messaging that they want to get out there.
Are you getting the impression that the idea now is to bat away the tariffs or just strategize on how to deal with them?
I think ideally we're batting away the tariffs, but that's likely not going to happen. So it's about dealing with them. It's being ready for anything and being prepared. I mean, this is all about making sure we have the right answers in place no matter what happens.
When you say it's likely that they're coming anyway, I mean, certainly that echoes. We heard from the CEO of JP Morgan today, basically saying in Davos to the rest of the world, hey, the tariffs are coming, you know, countries better get over it and start dealing with it. Last night, John Baird said to us that he thinks this whole idea of trying to convince Donald Trump that he's wrong about tariffs, that tariffs are bad, is actually a bad idea. He likes them. They're going to happen. Stop trying to say they're a bad idea. How does that sit with you?
I think that's true. I mean, I don't think we're going to take him off the point. I think it's a question of to what extent he's going to put tariffs on, not whether he's going to put tariffs on. That's my opinion.
He loves tariffs. Yeah. He loves the idea of dealing with immigration. He loves the energy file. Has a long story on that. He also loves the stock market.
Loves money.
And this is a government with a dilemma, a real dilemma. He has a growth agenda of reducing taxes, cutting regulation, cutting the size of government, and then he has exactly the contrary, tariffs. More inflation, higher cost of living, higher interest rates, and maybe higher cost of energy that's going to cripple their economy. And he has to reconcile both. He can't have both. And so within his own administration, we know there are people who are going to fight this idea of just simple tariffs. But is he going to go, does he love tariffs? Of course he does. We know that. We've known it for a long while.
You said you have antenna everywhere, so you're talking to all sorts of people. Do they think that this notion of retaliatory tariffs that get floated, the idea of you treat a bully like a bully, that's going to work?
I think the notion is that we have to stand for our country. We have to do whatever it is we need to do to defend Canadians' ability to live in an affordable manner. And if that's one for one, that's one for one. If that's something different, then that's something different. But I don't think we can just kind of turn our heads the other way and say nothing's going to happen. Something is going to happen, and we're going to have to defend it. And I think that's just the way it's going to be.
We have to respond, and we have to respond with, it has to be robust, determined, and with strength. Yes, Canadians may suffer through all of this. And also, remember in the process of Mr. Trump, of the idea, the grand statement, hits his adversary over the head, destabilize them, get them to admit things. But then you get into the world of exceptions, Adrienne. You know, in the last administration, when he did a number of things with China, and the Biden administration did the whole thing, the American political system is such as that it's like a Swiss cheese. You get the headline policy, and then everyone runs in with their lobbyists to get the exemptions. So it's a very different world. Think of him as a hockey player right now alone on the ice. He had his best day on Inauguration Day, but as of today, he has to deal with Congress. He has to deal with the courts. He has to deal with the business community. He has to deal with public opinion. It's going to be a different, and Canada is going to do its part so that we get the best decisions possible.
Which I think is a really good point, because we're not even a week into his administration. So people need to not overreact right now. They need to let this unfold as it's unfolding.
So what do Canadians do? Do you have any counsel for them? Is this by Canadian? I mean, I think there's a helplessness that they want some help with.
Yeah, I know that the Prime Minister spoke today about just that, and I think buying Canadian, I'll tell you from my perspective, this is as an entrepreneur and speaking to entrepreneurs every day, this is exactly what we're saying, which is buy Canadian. Think about what you're purchasing. Think about the decisions you're making. And, you know, thinking about what we can do in terms of whether it's interprovincial tariffs, whether it's cutting red tape, so projects can go ahead. The things that we are looking at as a council, and of course the Prime Minister and his office, are trying to make a difference for Canadians real time. So what can Canadians do? They cannot panic. I know that's easy to say, Adrienne, because you're exactly right. We're all a little bit afraid. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit afraid of what's about to happen. But in that, fear is an opportunity for Canadians to come together and to galvanize about our country and to cheer on, you know, what we stand for. So as opposed to being afraid and going into the corners, we need to come out.
Do you think this is also a wake-up call about maybe Canada is a little too closely aligned economically with the United States?
It's bigger. I think it's bigger than that. It is a general wake-up call about the country. I think in 20 years from now, we may thank Donald Trump for having done this and allowed us to have a very hard look at ourselves, Adrienne, as a country, on how we have managed our economy, how we work among the provinces, and our position in the world. Because it used to be that we could take the Americans for granted. We can't anymore. And for Mr. Trump, the world is an arena. For Mr. Trump, there is no global community. The world's an arena. In the arena, there's the vanquished and the one who wins. And they bring to this, in their view, power, and they embrace that. That's what we're seeing right now. So I think one day we should, and don't expect us or the government or people to talk today about what the retaliation will be. If there's one consensus, I think, Arlene, we saw yesterday, let's keep our powder dry, stay cool, be very well prepared for the scenarios. And rather than talk about what we'll do, do it. And when we do it, and we can hurt them, you know, we don't want to, but think of aluminum, potash, uranium, energy, of course. All these things are areas in which any action from Canada could be potentially painful for Americans, which we don't want to do, but if we have to defend ourselves, we will.
One last thought to you, and we really don't have much time at all. Unhelpful, helpful when people freelance a little bit like this, when you hear comments from prominent people like Kevin O'Leary talking about maybe we should merge the currencies, maybe there should be a common market.
Unhelpful. It's unhelpful because it goes against the narrative of what we're trying to do, is unifying the country and speaking with one voice. And that's not the tone that anyone has right now. We want to stand together. We do not want to have divisiveness out there. And somebody advocating for what I think is their own self-interest is not going to help in any way.
Have you told him that?
I haven't had a chance to tell him that, but hopefully he's heard some of these interviews that I've been doing where I've been saying exactly that, Adrienne. It's not helpful.
Okay. Arlene Dickinson, Jean Charest, thank you very much.
Thank you.
After the U.S. president's inauguration on Monday, some Instagram and Facebook users were surprised to discover they were now following Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. CBC News TikTok producer Ashley Fraser breaks down what is going on and Meta's explanation.
So some people woke up to discover that they were following either J.D. Vance or Donald Trump on Instagram.
Check to see if you're accidentally following Trump's new account, and J.D. Vance as well.
See if this looks like this for you. Because for me, that's odd.
It might have looked forced, but here's what we know about why that happened. We reached out to Meta and were referred to this statement online. Meta noted the accounts are managed by the White House, and with the new administration, the content on those pages changes. They added the same procedures were done in the last presidential transition. People also claimed they tried to unfollow these accounts several times, but were still following them again.
I went to the VP page that is now Vance's page, and I was re-following it magically.
In that same post, Meta's spokesperson says it may take some time for follow and unfollow requests to go through as these accounts change hands. But the mistrust towards Meta has run deeper this week for some users. Instagram users pointed out yesterday that search results for #DNC or #Democrat didn't return any results for hours, while other results for #Republican or #RNC did. Meta referred us to this post, saying it was an issue happening to a number of hashtags, not just on the left, and they were working quickly to resolve this. Now, this distrust in big tech isn't new. A recent survey showed that 8 in 10 Americans believe social media companies wield too much political power, and that's increased by 6% since 2020.
I think that they have this sort of latent, inherent distrust floating in the ether around them.
Another expert says seeing tech CEOs seated front row at the inauguration speaks to big tech seeping into politics.
In this case, they're cozying up. The real goal for big tech in the US right now is to really focus on deregulation and to find their own ways to operate.
That media expert points to recent big changes by Meta that have drawn scrutiny, like dropping its fact checkers.
We're headed to a world where people are not going to expect their normal interactions on social media the way they did 2 or 3 years ago.
Meta says it followed the same process back in 2017, too, when those accounts transferred from Obama to Trump. Well, soldiers in Ukraine are struggling to keep up the fight against Russia.
I honestly don't think we're going to be able to hold it for much longer.
CBC News is in Ukraine with soldiers hoping for peace. Nearly 3 years into the conflict in Ukraine, the war weighs heavy on the soldiers on the front line.
To see your friends dying around you the whole time, and it's the whole time.
Soldiers defending Ukrainian gains in Russia's Kursk region, sometimes forced to pull back, many praying for a resolution.
We're all tired. We wanna peace. I wanna back to civilian life.
CBC's Briar Stewart traveled to northeastern Ukraine, where soldiers preparing to return to the front lines told her about the grim reality there and the new enemy they're facing.
These men are trying to defend what they see as one of Ukraine's only major successes in the past year. This assault squad is in Ukraine's northeast in the Sumy region, gearing up before they head to the border just 15 kilometers away.
So these soldiers have been fighting in Russia's Kursk region, and right now they have a few days off, but they're getting ready to head back into the front line. So they've invited us out with them as they test their weapons.
They're checking their ammunition and running through a few drills.
It's quite important that everyone knows what's going on.
Chappie is a foreign fighter who's been in Ukraine since 2022 and says he and others are in desperate need of a break.
I honestly don't think we're going to be able to hold it for much longer. Morale's down, the boys are tired. To see your friends dying around you the whole time, and it's the whole time, it kind of gets to you.
Chappie is working with 2 Ukrainian men who were mobilized. Under Ukrainian military rules, he and others are only being identified by their call signs.
Put fire down on the position, boom, 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 boom.
Like many who were drafted, they have little or no military experience. Take 26-year-old Google. He was a sales manager but was mobilized 9 months ago.
It's really hard. We're all tired. We're all tired. We wanna peace. I wanna back to civilian life, of course.
But they're headed back here to Russia's Kursk region, where they've been ordered to defend territory Ukraine seized in a surprise attack in August. In this video, the men have made contact with the Russian position, but the Russians aren't the only ones they're up against now. They're also fighting several thousand North Koreans. As many as 1,000 have been killed.
You can see they've had some training. Their movement is way more aggressive. They just keep on going and going.
Ukraine has captured 2 of the soldiers who are now in Kyiv. But these troops tell CBC News that the North Koreans they've encountered refuse to become prisoners of war.
The North Korean guys don't came to Ukrainian prison. He kills himself with a grenade or something like this.
The troops CBC spoke with describe a worsening situation at the front. Some units pulling back from positions because of a lack of soldiers and experience.
All we're saying is, like Western countries, just step in. Let's just stop this thing now. Let's just freeze it.
Do you think that's a popular opinion among soldiers?
I think so. All of us think, let's freeze it a bit. But I can also tell you in the same breath that if they want to keep on fighting, we say no problem.
It's rare to hear soldiers speak so candidly about the urgent need for negotiations. In the cities, it's a different matter. Sumy was home to 250,000 people before Russia's full-scale invasion. Many remain. We need negotiations because it's hard to live with war, said this woman. We're tired of not sleeping at night and running to work in the morning, said another. If the siren weren't enough, destroyed buildings are a reminder of the constant threat. Last night, more than 14 drones targeted the region. 1 damaged this house. Back outside of the city, Google believes this fight should now rest with the politicians.
I want to hear from politics, hear from my president, hear from Trump maybe, or maybe another country can go with his soldiers and patrol all our border.
But Jari, another recent conscript, believes the only way there can really be peace is if Russia gives back the 20% of Ukrainian territory it occupies.
All Russian guys go back to their territory, we take our territory. That's peace.
Any other deal, he says, would only be temporary. Both countries would end up at war again, and men like him forced to take on the same fight.
One of the soldiers we spoke with described the situation in Kursk as even worse than the battle for Bakhmut, which lasted nearly a year and killed many soldiers on both sides. He said the difference now is that both militaries are using drones, making it even more dangerous.
Breyer, if some of the soldiers support freezing the conflict, what do they hope happens after that?
Well, that's the question, really, just what happens next. And we heard from U.S. President Donald Trump today in his most detailed response yet about what he would do if Russia's President Vladimir Putin didn't agree to a deal to settle the war. He talked about tariffs and sanctions. But a big question in all of this is just if there is a ceasefire, how would it be enforced or monitored? Now, France's President Emmanuel Macron has suggested that European peacekeepers could play a role. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that if that was the scenario, it would require at minimum 200,000 peacekeepers, and we're certainly not hearing a lot of widespread support from European leaders on that front yet. Adrienne.
All right, Breyer Stewart for us tonight in Ukraine. Thank you, Breyer. Next, perhaps a New Orleans first.
I think it's possible I might be the only one to skate on ice hockey skate on Canal Street.
Out for a rip on a frozen over Canal Street in our moment. Look at this, playing hockey on the frozen streets of New Orleans. It's a sight many may have thought impossible. But in the midst of these historic winter storms, former minor league hockey player Jay Krupp saw an opportunity. So tonight, his unlikely Southern shinny session is our moment.
I think it's possible I might be the only one to skate on ice hockey skate on Canal Street. I've been playing minor league hockey for the last 10 years, and my girlfriend and I, we went over to Canal Street. We saw the ice, and she was like, we should go get your skates. Went home, grabbed the twig. I had one biscuit at the bottom of my bag. Lucky enough, we had a frozen lake right there in the middle of the canal. I mean, yeah, I could skate on it, stop on it. I was just kind of like stick handling, you know, twirling around there. A few people wanted to grab my twig and you know, do a couple couple rips with it and test the hands out. They've never touched a hockey stick. The spirits seem to be off the charts. That was one of the cooler hockey experiences I've had in my life. Definitely once in a lifetime.
Jay, you're basically an ambassador for hockey in the South. He says the ice was really good quality for the South, which is possibly the understatement of the day. Also, that, you know, maybe one day, he says, maybe he can bring ice hockey to the city, a rink or a team. He might be getting ahead of himself. It's going to melt in about 48 hours. But good on him. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.